As I said, my name is Tamara Stewart. I'm the VP of Federal Grants. And yes, I could spell my name. That's me typing fast on that picture right there. With me, I have Frederick Davis, our compliance officer, Vicky Palfrey, who works with the ESG program, and Sharonda Chapman, who works with the Harper program. Today, we will only be going over ESG applications, but some universal things we will be discussing. Also on the line, we do have some of our team from the home program. I'm so happy they're here because yes, it is a new season. This is 2025 funds. So we are looking at a new corn plan. And we also have some things in our ESG application to help our programs work better together as we move forward during the corn plan season. I'll be providing a high-level overview of the ESG grant. If you want to get into the weed of the grant, especially if you're brand new to looking into ESG funds or even Harper funds, I do strongly recommend that you go and you read the regulations. 24 CFR 576 for ESG, the federal regulations, and also Mississippi Home Corporation ESG program policy, which is found on our website. For Hawkwood, we have the 24 CFR 574 regulations and Mississippi Home Corporation Hawkwood program policy. All of our federal funds also follow the 2 CFR 200 when it comes to financial compliance. For our application submission requirements for this grant share, it is starting earlier than last year in hopes that we will get the contracts out to you a little earlier. But the ESG and the Harper program 2025 requires a digital and a hard copy submission. Application opens today. You can find our application on our website, and we will take you through that process before the close of this session. Application closes August 1st at 4 p.m. Late application and applications not submitted according to requirements will not be accepted. When I say late applications, that means late completed applications. So sending in a partial application to meet the deadline also means that you did not meet the deadline. When you're submitting your application electronically, you will have to do a zipped file because it will be large. And make sure you send that application for ESG to Vicky and CC Frederick Davis with a topic of ESG 25 application. For Hawkwood, you need to send that application to Sharonda and CC Fred with a topic of Hawkwood 25 application. The ESG and the Harper application may require you to submit multiple emails. That's okay. We will look at every email that you sent. Now, if for some reason
Tomorrow.
Yes.
So I'm saying that they're getting a lot of feedback and echoing, so I'm having them to log out and back in. They said, and some saying they can't hear you.
Okay. I'll wait a
Said
second.
the audio is distorted. So they may gonna have to log back in and get back in real quick and continue.
Thank you, Fred.
Yeah, and Vicky's over in my office with me. She couldn't get in from her office. She's in the office with me.
Is it clear for you, Fred?
Yeah, it's clear on my end.
I'll wait a few minutes for those individuals to log back in.
Okay.
Okay, hope you can hear a little better now, but if you do not, or if you're having problems with the clarity, please don't be alarmed. This is recorded, so you can go back and download the recording and revisit what we're going through today. As I mentioned, late applications will not be accepted. Applications submitted in the mail, we will accept those late, but your digital application must be submitted on time by 4 p.m. Central Time. If technical assistance is needed on the application, because it is still an Excel application form, and for Hopper, it is a PDF. So if something is not working on the application and you need technical assistance, you can reach out to Sharonda for Hopper, Vicky for ESG, Fred for just general information or compliance questions, and myself for general information. Additionally, on August 1st, the day the application is due, we will not be providing technical assistance. That is not the time to call and ask what a question means. Only questions we will answer on August 1st if you're having difficulties regarding submitting, or maybe the email is not going through. If that's your technical issue, we will definitely help you address that. But technical issues regarding the application will not be answered on August 1st. So please work ahead of time so you don't be waiting till last minute.
It's up there.
Before considering in your consideration process for the ESG funds or even Hopper funds, agencies must consider their capacity to administer a reimbursement grant before submitting an application. Some of the items that should be considered are: one, do you have enough staff? Or maybe you have enough staff, but they are so brand new that this program might be a little difficult for them to operate. Two, do you have enough overhead and operations for such a reimbursement grant? Three, experience and knowledge. We do provide training consistently for our new agencies upon request. However, you do need some experience with working with the homeless population and their needs. Three, financial standing. This is a reimbursement grant, so you need to have enough financial standing to operate your expenses as they come through your request for cash. And four, internal policies and controls. Please make sure you have internal policies and control already developed before applying for federal funds. Our Comp Plan 2025 through 2029 sets the goals for our ESG and our Hopper program, and that's the biggest change that you will see in our ESG application this year. We are excited about this Comp Plan goals because we have really worked together as an agency in all areas to put together a holistic plan and goals to help individuals move towards self-sustainability. Mississippi Home Corporation 5-year goals. In general, we have home rental goals to expand and preserve affordable rental housing. 2, home ESG and Hopper goal to link housing development with employment and support services that promotes self-sufficiency. 3, home ownership activity, increase home ownership opportunities for households. 4, ESG and Hopper activity, enhance housing stability and homeless prevention programs. 5, home rental development and home ownership programs, increase manufactured housing stock for households. 6, home ownership rehab, increasing outreach for housing preservation through homeowner rehab assistance. 6, increase community knowledge about CHODOs. And 7, CDBG economic development, which is mainly increasing employment opportunities and infrastructure development. For ESG Pacific, I pulled out those goals. Goal number 1, ESG activity, enhance housing stability and homelessness prevention programs. We will do this through using ESG to provide wraparound supportive services, including job training, transportation, case management, education, and other approved services to properties that prioritize identified special needs population, especially those who are homeless or 30% AMI. Require housing stability plans for all homeless prevention housing assistance program recipients to ensure long-term stability. And when I say requiring housing stability plans, I'm talking about obtainable goals that will hopefully get them off of the program into self-sustainability. 3, work with the COCs to end the experience of homelessness and improve health outcomes by providing housing assistance through ESG. Second goal related to ESG is to partner with low-income housing rental developments to provide supportive services. If you are interested in that partnership, Kimberly Stamps has her application workshop later on this month. I will provide you that information because we will be encouraging and requiring our agencies to work together with developers who are selecting 30% AMI and homelessness as their priority population. How will we measure these outcomes? The measurement for ESG, the number of formerly homeless individual housed, we expect to see that numbers in homelessness have decreased some. We expect to serve a cumulative number of about 800 individuals through ESG, and that's all of our programs combined. We also expect a decrease in the number of chronic homeless individuals identified by the end of the year. We expect a decrease in the number of homeless individuals and households identified, because if you do not know, I think in every COC there was the increase in number of homeless individuals, so we want to see a decline on that number. We will be working with the COCs and looking at the point in time data to confirm that our program is having an impact. Other measurements, the percentage of formerly homeless individuals that maintain stable housing for 6 months after program discharge. So we will be looking at recidivism. If you haven't been checking in on your clients after program discharge, you will have to make sure that they maintain housing or connect them to services so they can maintain housing. The state expects about 50% or more of formerly homeless individuals served by ESG to maintain housing 6 months after the program. Third measurement, the number of individuals who increased income while in ESG program. The state expects that 25% of households will increase income while in the ESG program. So considering our goals for the current plan and for ESG and our expected measures, keep that in mind as you're putting together your ESG application, because we want to fund programs that's working towards our 5-year plan. ESG funding amounts and caps. This year, for 2025 grant share, ESG was awarded from HUD 2.2 million, about $2,294,835. This is a decrease from last year of about $10,000. The decrease is based on the population size. The state of Mississippi general population has declined by about 0.1%, and this is a block grant, so it's based on population size. Our funding categories for emergency shelter, we estimate about $913,000 on that category. It is our largest funding amount because of the other funds that are in the state right now that cannot pay for shelter. ESG is the only one that can pay for emergency shelter currently. Street outreach at $10,000. That's extremely low, but based on your spending last plan or last grant year, we didn't see a lot of funds coming out of street outreach, so it is really low. Also, street outreach can be funded out of other activities other than ESG. Rapid rehousing, $750,000. Homeless prevention, $403,000. HMIS, $67,000, and the state admin at $150,000. MAC reserves the right to adjust the amount designated for any program category based on the demand. So yes, these are our recommended amounts in each category, but if we see more need in the application for rapid rehousing versus shelter, then we can make adjustments accordingly. ESG is a one-year grant given to approved agencies. Caps. When applying for ESG funding, agencies can request between $75,000 and $300,000. However, it is important to note that the caps do not ensure that your agency will receive the exact amount requested. The final amount awarded depends on the availability of funds, the number of agencies receiving funding. As a result, it may be possible that you receive less than $75,000 depending on the scoring matrix, which we will go over later on. And this is a notification to everyone. We are no longer doing the 2-year application. It's no longer accepted. If we tried it, it didn't work out. We're going back to the 1-year application. So yes, every single year until further notice, we will be looking for an application from you if you're looking or you're hoping to receive ESG funds. Who can apply for ESG funding? Eligible agencies. The COCs and their nonprofit members are all eligible for ESG funding. Also, homeless service providers and nonprofits in the communities who are 501c3 designated. This also includes churches can apply for ESG funding. Finally, non-entitled local units of government that operates existing homeless shelters or programs can also apply for ESG funding. Eligible beneficiaries for ESG. The minimum eligible criteria for ESG programs set forth by MHC is as follows. For essential services related to street outreach, beneficiaries must meet the definition of unsheltered homeless. For emergency shelter services and related essential services, beneficiaries must meet the definition of homelessness under paragraph 1 and 4 of the homeless definition. For rapid rehousing, beneficiaries must meet the definition of homelessness under paragraph 1 and 4 of the homeless definition. For homeless prevention, beneficiaries must verify that their household income is at or below 30% AMI. They have no other resources and they meet the definition of homelessness under paragraph 2 and 4 of the homeless definition, which is the imminent risk of homelessness. This year, as we did last year, we're not considering the at-risk of homelessness definition because of home ARP can serve that population. And as people wait on home ARP, they can quickly be served through ESG for those who are most at risk of becoming homeless. Subrecipients must use a system approved by the federal government to verify the benefits are not provided to an ineligible alien who entered the United States illegally or is otherwise unlawfully present in the United States. This includes street outreach, shelter, rapid rehousing, homeless prevention, and all services related to federal programs. Threshold, ESG threshold. The threshold is lengthy, but it is the same threshold as last year. I will go through it one item at a time. First one, nonprofits must submit verification of their nonprofit status and proof of good standing with the Secretary of State for Mississippi, Hours of Incorporation, bylaws, and Constitution, and a copy of the organizational chart and agency board of staff. The application is fully completed. As I mentioned before, a partially completed application will not be accepted. The applicant is registered with SAM.gov, and that's including an updated registry because those things do expire. So make sure you have an active SAM account and you have a UEI number where we can pull you up in that SAM search. Applications submitted by non-entitlement local unit of government must include a copy of resolution authorizing the submission of their application. Applications submitted by a private nonprofit organization that are operating an existing homeless shelter must include a copy of authorizing resolution. The resolution must be adopted by the nonprofit board and signed. Applications from private nonprofit organizations that are operating existing homeless shelter must also include a letter from their local unit of governments, making sure they know that you have a shelter in their community and they are okay with that shelter existing there. Please confirm that the current ESG program year is on that notice because administration's changes. We want to make sure that the current local government is approving your activities. Match requirement must be documented in the application. Applicants must not have any unresolved audits or monitoring findings associated with the program or with programs managed by MAC or HUD. The applicant must disclose if they receive any grants from MAC or HUD for which MAC or HUD has the obligated part or all of that grant. The applicant must disclose all other grants and funding sources used to support the activities and staff identified in the application. Any application that has been prepared for by an application preparer that is involved in a pending debarment or a suspension proceeding before the state or federal government will not be accepted. Applicant must provide proof of homeless participation. So if you didn't know, if you're applying for homeless funds with the ESG program, you must have some type of input from the homeless population. If you don't have it directly, you can also have a homeless or formerly homeless person participate in decision-making and policy-making for the program. The applicant must have or provide their most updated single accounting audit. If you spend more than $1 million in federal funds, if you spend less than $1 million in federal funds because of the new requirements of 2 CFR 200 adopted in October, you don't have to do a single audit. So good for you all. For those who are above $1 million, we need that single audit. The applicant must be able to provide their audits and also proof that if there was a finding identified in the audit that you have resolved that. We need your most updated IRS 990. We actually need the IRS 990 for the last 3 years. We need you to complete the risk assessment questionnaire. That's a part of the application. And please, the risk assessment questionnaire will automatically say if you are high risk or you're not a high risk. Don't try to fool with the formula. It will mess up the whole sheet. But you can provide supporting documents on why you're considered high risk and what you did to resolve that issue. That will be accepted and that will be okay. Shelters must submit a purchase or lease agreement of the shelter building. Sections 3 summary report from HUD 60024 must be submitted if necessary. Frederick Davis will go over the eligible activities for the ESG program. Fred, just tell me as I need to move the slides.
Okay. All right. In this section, as you said, we're going to go over the eligible activities for the emergency solution grants. You go ahead tomorrow. All right. And these are this consists of 5 components, program components. The first one is street outreach, emergency shelter. The next one will be homelessness prevention, rapid rehousing assistance, and HMIS, which is homeless management information systems. Under this component on street outreach, funds may be used for costs of providing essential services, connect them with emergency shelters, I'm sorry, essential services necessary to reach out to unsheltered homeless people, connect them with emergency shelter, housing, and critical services, and provide urgent, non-facility based care to unsheltered homeless people who are unwilling or not able to access emergency shelters, housing, and or appropriate health facilities. Next on the street outreach component, outreach to unsheltered homeless individuals. This includes case management, engagement, transportation, and emergency health services. All right, under the emergency shelter component, under the emergency shelter program components, funds may be used to operate and maintain the emergency shelters and provide hotel or motel vouchers when no appropriate emergency shelter is available. ESG funds may be used to provide essential services to homeless individuals and households in the emergency shelter and fund shelter operation. The emergency shelter components, the essential services include number one, case management, two, educational services, three, employment assistance and job training, four, outpatient health service, five, life skills training, six, mental health services, seven, substance abuse treatment, number eight, transportation. Emergency shelter component, all ESG funded shelters must meet the standard outlined by Inspire. And we know that's our new inspection that we're using now is Inspire. All ESG fund shelters must enter our shelter bed count and shelter residents into HMIS. Domestic violence agencies may enter their shelter residents information in VILA. Mississippi Home Corporation will not fund emergency shelter programs that are not connected directly or indirectly to a rapid rehousing or a permanent housing program. I'm going to read that once again because that's very important. Mississippi Home Corporation will not fund emergency shelter programs that are not connected directly or indirectly to a rapid rehousing or a permanent housing program. All items purchased must be for the operation of the shelter and individuals receiving shelter services. All major maintenance or renovation. Yeah, did you hear the last? I think I got muted. Not sure if they have. They hear the last one. I repeat the last. All major maintenance and renovation activities connected to the grant must be first approved in your application. Okay. Next, we will talk about homelessness prevention component. Funds may be used to prevent an individual or a family from moving into an emergency shelter or another place described in paragraph 1 of the homeless definition 576.2. Allowable activities for services provided with homeless prevention is in accordance with the housing relocation and stabilization service requirement in 576.105. Homeless prevention eligibility. Must meet the criteria under at-risk of homeless definition or meet the criteria in paragraph 2, 3, or 4 of the homeless definition and meet but for assessments under the 576.2 and have an annual income at or below 30% of median family income for the area as determined by HUD. Some other components of this will be rental assistance and rental arrears, financial assistance, which includes rental application fees, security and utility deposits, utility payments, last month's rent, and moving cost. Services would include housing search and placement, housing stability case management, landlord tenant mediation, tenant legal services, also credit repair. Rental assistance may be short term, which is up to 3 months, or medium term, which is up to 24 months. The applicant and the program participant must be the same. A person who is listed as in the household cannot make an application for assistance unless that person is a party to the lease agreement and utility bills. Next, we will talk about the rapid rehousing component. Funds may be used to provide reparee housing services activities in accordance with the Housing Relocation and Stabilization Services requirement in 576105 and the short and medium term rental assistance requirement in 576.106. Housing relocation and stabilization services activities must be provided as necessary to help homeless individual and household, meeting category 1 or 4 of the HUD homeless definition to quickly move to permanent housing and achieve stability. Some additional with rapid housing, reparee housing components, rental assistance and arrears. Again, financial assistance, rental application fees, security and utility deposits, utility payments, last month's rent, and also moving costs, services that are included, housing search and placement, housing stability case management, landlord tenant mediation, tenant legal services, and also again, credit repair. Rental assistance may be considered short-term for up to 3 months, also medium term, which is up to 24 months. Case management and housing stability planning. Both case management and housing stability planning are requirements for ESG, reparee housing, and homeless prevention programs. Applicants receiving services must have attainable goals for housing stability. Staff cost is capped at no more than 50% of the grant. Our next section we will be dealing with will be HMIS. The subrecipient must ensure, in accordance with HUD standards of participation, that data on all persons served and all activities assisted under the ESG program are entered into the applicable community-wide HIMS or comparable database in the area which those persons and activities are located. The subrecipient must report and track all data collections and reporting under a local HMIS. Data requirement in HMIS includes universal data elements, shelter bed count, program income, housing stability plans, case management notes, contact logs, move-in date, discharge date, and destination.
All right, I'm going to dive into reporting. We have more reporting requirements this year because we have more goals directly related to ESG. Now, previously we only did the monthly and annual reports. Now we are adding the quarterly reports. For monthly reports, recipients of the ESG program must submit monthly reports detailing the number of applicants who received access to ESG services. We are now requiring you to submit those reports to our RSC email address, which is mhc.rsc@mshc.com. You can also CC Vicky when you send it to that email address. These reports are due by the 15th of the month for the month prior, so we can report that to our board. Our quarterly report, this is new. Mississippi Home Corporation requires ESG-funded agency to provide a quarterly report regarding the use of program funds and outcomes related to program-specific goals. So now we're looking at the current plan goals, increasing income, discharge and into stability and remaining in stability 6 months prior discharge. Quality reports must be emailed to mhc.rsc@mshc.com on the 15th of the month following the end of the quarter. All reports must adhere to MHC reporting requirement. This report will come in a form of a questionnaire that we email to you, and you answer the questions and email it back. We will use HMIS to validate any data submitted in these quarterly reports. Annual report. That's our CAPER, and we are actually in CAPER season, so I'll be sending that to you all this week. Recipients of the ESG program are required to submit a consolidated annual performance evaluation report, CAPER, each year, covering the reporting period from July 1 to June 30th. Before we move from reporting, we do have one question from Ms. Robinson.
Okay, I think I see it now, Tamara. I was just looking at the quarterly reporting, I thought that we went to monthly with that.
So that'll be a different report. Yes, ma'am. It's 3 different reports this time. A monthly, a quarterly, and annually. All 3 will ask for different things. The monthly
Okay.
report just want to know how much people you serve. You send that to Vicky right now. I serve 15 people in shelter or rapid rehousing. The quarterly report will look at the goals we identified on our comp plan, which I actually have to type up and send to HUD every year. So that will help us reach that goal. And then our annual report is our CAPER, which will still be generated through HMIS.
Okay, so the quarterly reporting format will be sent to us.
Yes, as a survey.
Okay, great. Okay, got it. Thank you.
You're welcome. But also keep in mind, the survey will be easy for you to complete, but it must be validated in HMIS. So if you're saying in your survey that you have 5 clients that increase their income and we cannot confirm that in HMIS, we will be contacting you to update HMIS with that data.
Okay, thank you.
Match. We love match. Now, ESG is one of the heaviest match program I've seen. It's a dollar for dollar match. The good thing is the federal government allows us not only to do cash match, but we can do in-kind match. So the match requirements for ESG, as I mentioned, is dollar for dollar. Applicants must provide dollar for dollar matching funds. According to 24 CFR 576201 and 42 USC 11375 and ESG program requirements. And at least 25% of your match must be liquid assets. To calculate your match, if you ask for 100,000, then you must give us 100,000, not you must use 100,000. So your ESG grant is actually 200,000. Evidence of match must be provided on your RSC. The evidence of match on your RSC, I think we started last year or year before last when HUD started requesting random RFCs that didn't have match. We want to show HUD when they pull your RFC through a random selection that you are actually doing the match that is needed for that program. The match can come in many forms. We do accept cash match and in-kind match. Matching contribution from sources includes federal sources other than ESG program, as well as state, local, and private sources. In order to meet the match requirements, the matching contribution must meet all of the requirements that apply to ESG funds provided by HUD. The matching contributions must be provided after the date that HUD signs the grant agreement. And yes, I do know that 1, we don't know that when the grant agreement is signed, and 2, it might be too late for some of your grants to be included on the match. But when we reach to that area, we will deal with it then. But this is a federal requirement. When you use ESG match, it has to be for the current time and must be after the date of the contract signed by HUD. 3, match can be used to count towards the required match for recipients' fiscal year. Cash contributions must be expended within the deadline of the grant time. Contribution used to match a previous ESG grant may not be used to match the subrecipient ESG grants. So you can't reuse match information. Contributions that have been or will be counted to satisfy a matching requirement of another federal grant or award may not be counted to satisfy a match. Requirements for using cash or non-cash contributions for match. Cash expended for allowable costs as defined in OMB Circulation 2 CFR 225 and 2 CFR Part 230 are all acceptable. Cash donation, cash receipts from sales of donations, like from a thrift store, are acceptable. However, There may not be any duplication of the sales or your transactions. Non-cash contributions may include but are not limited to real property, equipment, goods or services. The value of any real property, equipment, goods or services is determined by the cost the recipient, the receipt or subrecipient had to pay for when they first got the grant funds. If items were used for match, I said non-cash items were used for match in the previous grant year, it cannot be used again. Calculating the amount of non-cash contributions. Calculating non-cash contributions, the value of fair market value of any donated material or building, and the value of any lease or a building can be used. Services provided by individuals must be valued at a rate consistent with those obtained ordinarily paid for similar work. But please do not upcharge your volunteers. For example, you can do a minimum of $7.25, which is minimum wage. But to have a intern in undergrad program matching at $45 an hour is really extreme. So make sure it makes sense when you're sending your match information. Recapture of funds. If we decide to award you grant funds, and for some reason we have to come back to recapture, we want to make sure we are transparent about the reasons or conditions that can lead to us recapturing your grant funds. MHC may recapture funds previously awarded to an ESG subrecipient for reasons such as failure to satisfy timeliness of the implementation of the project, failure to comply with contractual condition, unresolved monitoring, waste, misuse, or abuse of funds, fraud, unfavorable audit reports that is not resolved, inability to comply with policies, or failure to complete the project closeout. In more detail, grounds for recapture may include the following: failure to meet performance standards, non-compliance with program requirements, misuse or improper expenditure of funds, failure to maintain proper documentation, failure to comply with audit requirements, suspension of or discontinuation of program operations, as if your program has dissolved and you didn't tell us, so we have to come back and take your funds. Please let us know if that's happening at your agency. Untimely expenditure of funds, unresolved monitoring, audits and findings, and breach of contract. Mississippi Home Corporation do try to work with all agencies. If we feel like something is going wrong ahead of time, we try to let agencies know. That's why we do encourage an open communication, because if you wait till it's too late, sometimes our hands are tied and we have no choice but to deobligate. Now let's jump into the application. I think we have got enough information about the background, about what we can use the funds for. So let's get familiar about the application. The application is the same as last year, but the scoring has changed and some of the questions is a little different. So the scoring is still adds up to 100. And we still do require a minimum of 75 points to be considered for funding. For new agencies, your minimum will be 65 points because of new agencies won't have the past performance section to provide, which is 5 points. We did change the scoring. We put more points in the program goals and outcomes because of our comp plan. We did put more points in that section. To get to our ESG application, you need to first go to our website. We will not be accepting applications from last year, even though the questions are very similar or the same in some instance. We will not accept last year applications. You must go to our website, go to the ESG program. Once you click on the ESG program, you will see this: need to apply 2025 ESG application. You can also reference the ESG application manual for more program-specific policies and procedures regarding the application process. And let's see, I'll pause for 1 second. If y'all want a chance to go ahead and find it on our application, you'll be on our website. You should be able to go on our website right now and pull it up. I do want to give agencies a time to pull that up and we can walk through it together. I'll give you all about 2 minutes. All right, did everyone have a chance to pull our application up? I hope so. So if you pull our application up, the first tab should be the application information. This would be and it will be the Excel. If you're not working off of this workbook, then you're working on the wrong application. Have 2025 on the top. It has the date and the time that it's due. A part of the application, which is probably tab 3, will be the risk assessment questionnaire. I mentioned the risk assessment questionnaire previously. Just answer it to the best of your ability. It will give you a score, but don't be too concerned unless you're unable to explain why you may be at a high risk or moderately high risk. The risk is based on things that HUD has determined is high risk. For example, if your executive staff or your key staff has changed in the last 3 to 5 years, HUD automatically determine that you're a high risk, so you might get high risk for that. Just explain to us what happened. You got new staff. We do understand, but at least we'll have a record that we know that you have new staff and that's happening. Other things that triggers a high risk includes unfavorable accounting audit or not actually completing your accounting audits on time. Moderately high risk would be things, for example, maybe you have some new case managers, but not new key staff. Low risk is if maybe you have nothing changed recently and you've had all cleared accounting audits. Further down in the application is actually past most of the tabs, all the way towards the back is your section 8. The Section A is critical information about your staff. This is usually one of the last things you do on your application, but it's the first thing that we look at when it comes to ranking your application, providing scoring. This is providing evidence that your staff have the experience that they need to complete the administered application. You will be completing attachment A for about 3 of your employees, your ED, executive director, CM, your lead case manager, and FS, your physical staff, your financial staff person. To get the max amount of points on this, then your staff must have more than 10 years experience with federal grants. Agencies pass the ability to manage federal grants funds and programs services to include the following will be considered when understanding the capacity and experience. We will also look at your monitoring results. If you don't have a closeout for your 2023 ESG grant, feel free to reach out to us. We'll make sure you have that. Request for cash process, if you have a lot of issues there. Understanding and appropriately implementing federal and state regulations. Completing training and meeting expenditure quarterly and contractual deadlines and benchmarks. The need or extent of the problem is about 15 points. This can be completed in the need analysis and the program description sections of the application. Agencies must identify a tangible need in their community and describe how the proposed grant funds can be used to address the identified needs. Agencies must also identify other resources within the targeted community and indicate whether they partner with those agencies. This will help us identify if there's a gap for resources in your community. This is the need assessment tool that we use. This tool is actually a tool developed by HUD when they came up with the home ARP application. We've modified it a little bit for ESG. If you don't have these numbers, please reach out to your COC because they will have this information. So when you do the need analysis, you should include information from your local and national data, your statistical reports, information from your VI SPDA, your COCs, maybe your information from your ESG application or grants from last year funds. The need assessment is only for the counties you will be serving. The state don't need to know the needs of the entire state because we have that. We just want for you to tell us the needs in your community and the available resources in your community. Collaboration partnership. This is 10 points. Points will be given to encourage partnerships between your agency and other agencies in the community. Points will be given specifically if there are strong partnerships that comes with an MOU or a letter of intent. Collaboration in the application is strongly encouraged. You can provide a description of your outreach efforts for partnership. You can just describe any coordination of services with other homeless programs. Describe your partnership and collaboration established with other organizations and volunteers. Describe how the services provided through these partnerships help to meet the need of the client and promote self-sufficiency. And partnerships also should include home and low-income tax credit properties. We're not looking for one agency to do all the work, but we really want to encourage agencies to work together, show the collaboration to provide a holistic approach to resolving the homeless issues in their communities. In the application, if you go to the project information tabs, we have about 3 tabs for project information. one for ESG emergency shelter, homeless prevention, and rapid rehousing. You can describe those partnerships and how they will work with the program you're proposing to fund. Coordinated entry system and HMIS data monitoring. This is about 10 points in the application. You are required by federal regulations to use HMIS and to participate with the coordinated entry system. Agencies must describe their use of HMIS and participation in coordinated entry system. For DV agencies, you can describe the use of the VILA or the database that you are using to document your resources. Past performance and program evaluation. This is 5 points. Agencies can describe their past performance on the Past Performance tab in the application. Additionally, agencies' performance in the past MAC awards will be considered, including agencies' ability to meet the terms of their contract. Past performance in the application, describe your previous performance utilizing ESG funds, if applicable. The total project cost will be considered along with the unit of services provided. When you do your past performance tab, we're not looking for essay, we're looking for data. You're going to fill out this form for the last fiscal year. It's going to be from July 1, 2024 to June 30th, 2025. Of the services that was rendered in your program. That's actually going to be the 2024 grant funds, 2023, 2024 grant funds. Once you put the data in there, it will automatically calculate on the next side to show us how much funds was used in each category and how much services were provided versus how much funds were used for staff costs. Program plan and project description, 15 points. Program description will be 5 points and project information will be 10 points, putting it together for 15 points. And this will start from our program description tab and end in our project information tab. So in our program description tab, you will have a blank section to describe your proposed program. Identify the needs and describe how the proposed program can provide resolution to the needs that you've identified. Describe how the proposed program will operate in detail. The description should include how clients are referred and what types of services are provided from entry to exit. The description include evidence-based best practices that will be used through case management, and also identify agencies and properties that you may partner with. For project information, 10 points. You might also include are you a low barrier shelter? ESG funds must be used for low barrier shelters. Describe your shelter and your street outreach activities. Describe your experience with the population and how your requested services will be used to promote stability. Describe employment efforts and how you will promote employment with your applicants. Describe community coordination of services. Identify methods to recruit landlords. Points will be given if you have existing partnership with developers and home tax credit properties. Also consider what are your case management and discharge practices. Program goals, 15 points. We have increased these points here due to the comp plan. Goals must be clearly described, measurable, and be in line with the national strategic goals, home and Mississippi Home Corporation State Comp Plan. Agencies can describe their goals on the proposed goals and outcome tab in the application. Goals should include, but not limited to, the following as applicable: increase accessibility to affordable housing, overall reduction in the number of persons who are experiencing homelessness, reduction in the length of homelessness, reduction in returns to homelessness, increased employment and income growth for persons experiencing homelessness, average length of time between intake and assistance given. The ones that are in red are triggered by our current plan. Other goals and objectives for the program can also be described in this section. Describe what processes are in place for tracking program outcomes and how it will be measured. In addition to your agency's internal tracking methods, the Sipping Home Corporation does require you to put the data in HMIS so we can validate that information. Proposed household, you must also describe your proposed household that will be served, indicate the number of individuals and households that will be served, indicate the income levels of individuals to be served. Please keep in mind your proposal is just your proposal. If the amount of funds you requested was not provided, we will ask you to reevaluate your goals to adjust for the amount of funds that are awarded. Financial controls, 15 points. In the application, agencies are marked on their financial controls and feasibility to manage the ESG reimbursement grant. Agencies can describe their financial controls on the Match Funds tab and the Program Budget tab and the Budget Summary tab. Information reviewed include the total cost per unit of services, the agency's 990s, agency's operational budget, the ability to manage a reimbursement grant, accounting audits, cost totaling services, cost total towards services versus staff and operation. As a reminder, staff cost is capped at no more than 50% of the grant. This is your budget summary page. These pages are linked together. So when you do your project budget information and you fill in the information in blue, when you come down to this bottom section down here, if you click on total shelter, it will take you to this page. On this page, you have a list of approved activities. If it's not on this list, it's not an approved activity and you cannot include it on this list. Once you put that information here, you click home, it will take you back to this page and it will automatically calculate here. I also see here for your prior project, it says 2023. That's intentional because we got our 2024 funds so late, we don't really have a prior budget on that, but most of y'all have expended your 2023 funds. So please put in your prior budget 2023 in this section. Once you complete the information, it will come to this page automatically. You will be left to complete the blue sections to give us a total of how much funds you are budgeting for this grant. And then it will break out how much funds are going toward the grant directly versus case management or staff costs directly. But we're not done yet. The last thing for you to do is to complete the certification. If you did everything you need to do and you submit everything to us, but you forgot to get this signed, you do not have a complete application. This certification is saying that you certify the information you've provided to us is true and complete, and that whoever's in charge in your agency is okay or is agreeing with you applying for ESG funds. This must be completed, signed, and dated. The date on this will help us confirm that your application was submitted and dated and completed on time. Finally, let's go through our ESG grant selection process. The ESG funds will be awarded based on a final points of the ESG grant scoring guide. Applicants must score at least 75% out of the 100 points to be considered for funding. The past performance points may not be considered for new agencies, therefore their total points will be adjusted accordingly. MAC reserved the right to adjust the amount awarded based on the amount of funds available and based on the demand created by the application submitted. The more agencies that we have to apply, the less funds we have to go around. So do expect it to be adjusted accordingly. You will be emailed a letter with the funding decisions, with the final decision. Other factors that are considered with an application include experience, internal controls, partnerships, capacity, past performance, finances, and other items. In addition, proposed outputs and outcomes along with the COC approved support letter and a formal evaluation, if available, will be incorporated as performance outcomes and measurements for the applicants. You can see all this information in our policy procedures. All applications are reviewed by a review committee and scored according to their application. MAC uses the score ranking system that considers the total funds request and other factors to determine the final outcome. MAC board makes the final decision on agencies that are selected for funding and amounts. If you are denied or if your application is denied, we do allow for an appeal process. ESG applicants wishing to appeal a decision of MAC to deny ESG funding may do so in writing within 10 business days of the date of the denial or rejection letter. The request for reconsideration must be submitted in writing via mail to me. Any written appeals shall specifically identify the grounds for appeal and include appropriate supporting documentation related to the facts of the original application that will lead MAC to reach a different conclusion. Applicants may only appeal decisions based on program eligibility requirements. Appeals filed within the required timeframe will be reviewed by the program reviewing committee. All appeal determinations made by MAC are final with no further administrative review and are not subject to judicial review. Expected timeline. So applications open today. It must be submitted to us by 4 p.m. on August 1st. Workshop is today. We will be reviewing applications and scoring, including doing shelter visits between August 2nd to September 30th, with hopes to go to board by October 8th. Award date is to be determined. We cannot give an estimate on that. That will be based on when HUD decides to release the contracts. I'm going to stop sharing and recording so we can take questions from the ground or from our agencies.